Welcome to United Network News, the official news channel for CARE, the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. I'm Sunny Galt. At UNN, you get the real news. Through our field messengers, we show you the truth about what's really taking place in our communities. We also bring you stories to help you remember who you are and why you're here, as well as regional stories that impact the people. And our World Situation Report reveals what's happening throughout the multiverse. We are here to restore Earth. In the U.S., it is Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. We're headed to Uganda, Africa, where local children, many of which are on the streets, are being rescued. We'll introduce you to the community organization making it happen. Also in Uganda, people in a small village are working together to enhance opportunities for their disabled to communicate and thrive. Learn more about their efforts. In the new Earth, we're exploring natural healing technologies such as Pulsed Electromagnetic Field Therapy, which stimulates your cells to support overall wellness. And this nonprofit organization pairs older dogs with foster parents, helping them live their best life.
This is Calen Gipp, Messenger for United Network News. Here's a look at today's field messenger reports from all around the world. In eastern Uganda, a community organization is dedicated to providing a secure refuge for children in need. UNN field messenger Maureen shares insights about their mission.
Hi everyone, my name is Maureen, field messenger for UNN. I'm here to tell you about my community organization that is called the Kula Restoration Children's Home. Yes, I'm going to tell you about how I rescue my children at Kula Restoration Home. Some of the children don't have parents totally. Their parents died maybe in an accident. Then others are just put on streets, just like that, and that's where I get them from. Some of the children, their parents died while giving birth, and this is due to bad medication, whereby they don't have enough medication, they don't have enough money to provide for the labor periods. Remote areas where people don't have help, and this is in Uganda right now. This is a house, and this is how it looks like inside. It's just there is no mattress, there is no bed sheet, there is nothing like anything here. And this is how people live in Uganda. They don't have help. You look at someone, they don't even have money to take their children at school, because even their living, the way of living is not good, as you are seeing inside. You can see. There is nothing like it here. There is no anything. So people are real badly off. And people are looking for restoration, because it's not that everyone has to live in this situation. Everyone has to be good. Everyone has to look good. Everyone has to live the life that they're supposed to live. Thank you so much.
In Pulsed, Uganda, a community gathering is focused towards enhancing the visibility and participation of the disabled community. UNN field messenger Mwandha Michael highlights the event.
I am Mwandha Michael, field messenger UNN. I'm happy that today I met a community participation, and amazingly, I found people with disabilities when first gathering, and their place has been behind this. How did you come up with the concept of this kind of people?
Thank you very much. I am called Dr. John Robert. How did I come across this vulnerable group? In 2005, when I retired from Ministry of Education, I participated in writing a white paper. The white paper was changing syllabuses of Ministry of Education and prioritizing disability. Incidentally, when I retired, that white paper was not implemented at all. When I participated, I knew exactly what to do. So in 2005, I started mobilizing the disabled, the vulnerable, the needy myself. And as we talk now, I have almost 100 of disabled people. And this is one of them who is living me, identifying and educating them in their special language. This.
Yes, Krista. The name? Yellow Coffee is a sign language tutor who has been leading us today in talking to those people who can't listen ear by ears, but by signs they understand. We are blessed. Thank you, all of you.
Asante sana.
Thank you. Fair play. Continue with white paper to come up with a proposal for
Yes.
We want you to become a UNN field messenger. These are everyday people just like you who want to make a difference in their community. You don't need any special training or equipment. Just use the camera on your mobile phone and show us what's happening in your area. You send us your videos and our production team will create the report for you. For ideas and inspiration, we encourage you to join our new Field Messenger group on Telegram. Our new website is now up and running at unitednetwork.earth. You can submit your Field Messenger reports directly through the Field Messenger tab at the top of the page. You can also email your reports to our new email address at fieldmessenger@unitednetwork.earth.
Hello, I'm Susan from Sweden.
Mwandha Michael from Eastern Uganda, Africa.
Hi, I'm Tim from Vancouver, Canada.
I'm Titesha from Manipur State, India.
I'm Gumba Obasi from Southeast Nigeria.
Arnaito Chakrini from Western Uganda, Mbarara.
At United Network News, you are the news.
My name's Christina, Field Messenger, report first one in the hurricane down here in Southern California from Mexico.
Real people reporting real stories from all around the world. At UNN, our field messengers are changing the face of news.
This is Jason from United Network News. We're going to be doing some aircrete building with new technologies that allow us to live in comfort and also off the grid.
Take the next step in changing the way the world gets the news. Become a UNN field messenger today.
I am Michelle from South Africa, and we are the United Network News.
I am United Network News.
I am United Network News.
If it is going to be, then it's up to me.
If it's going to be, it's up to me.
Si va a ser así, depende de mí. It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to me.
It's up to all of us. We're UNN.
Living in the new earth means a return back to the natural order of life. And that includes ways to naturally heal our bodies. Pulsed electromagnetic field therapy uses low-level frequencies to counter high frequencies commonly found in our electronics and cell towers. It's essentially a power source that allows us to recharge our bodies or our batteries. Ara Wiseman is a leading nutrition expert and aging well specialist based in Toronto, Canada. And today she's sharing some of the benefits of this technology that's already on the market. So today, Ara is back with us, and we're talking about pulsed electromagnetic field therapy and how this can help our bodies. So, Ara, what is this?
So, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy or frequency therapy works by sending low-level frequencies throughout our body to recharge our cells. It's like our mitochondria, the powerhouse of our cells, produces our ATP. Mm-hmm. And ATP is like the energy currency of what our body uses for energy.
Okay.
And PEMF, which makes it easier,
it does.
Actually helps produce more ATP in our body. It actually helps to give us more energy. It actually helps with our immunity. It actually helps with like stronger bones and just making us a lot healthier. Like we're exposed to so much EMF from all our cell phones and the cell towers.
Yes.
And that frequency is not so healthy for us, right?
Yeah.
Because that frequency is more of a high frequency.
Okay.
And basically what it does is it's disrupting the body because it ionizes or charges our cellular atoms. And what it does is it alters our DNA. Like, it's not the healthiest thing, whereas PMF is like more of a low frequency.
Okay.
And basically what it does is it's more natural. So if we think about a thunderstorm, a thunderstorm has more of a PEMF kind of frequency than, and it's a natural thing that we experience. But when we lie on the mat, it actually makes us feel really relaxed. And one of the other things that it does is it actually increases our bowel movements and it increases the way that we detoxify. It's basically recharging our batteries. So we tend to get sick when our voltage is low. We tend to not have a lot of energy. And I'm sure we've all experienced that, where you wake up in the morning and you're like, how am I going to get through my day? Like, I just feel so fatigued, or, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the most important thing to do is to, if you can, lie on a PMF mat, but make sure that you're hydrating at the same time, because you want to flush all that out. And that's really, really important. So we want to make sure that we're hydrating really well, especially when we're on it, because you will notice that you will urinate afterwards, and you may actually have a bowel movement. If not right away, you'll have it the next day. But some of the benefits of it, besides recharging our batteries, is we get increased endorphins and pain relief. And the other thing that it does is, how sometimes you eat a high sodium dinner and you've got bags under your eyes, especially as we get older, or we're just feeling a bit swollen and a bit inflamed. What it does is it really helps to restore the sodium potassium exchange within our cells. And so it really, really helps with that too. And so we get rid of that edema, that swelling, or that inflammation. And it also helps with pain reduction, because we know that when we're inflamed, we tend to have more pain, right? And that's the body's natural reaction. But unfortunately, people are chronically inflamed, because of their diet and because of other things as well. So it also helps to increase wound and bone healing. It's actually like attaching yourself to a power source and recharging your batteries.
Yeah.
You feel amazing afterwards.
And then how long does that last for? Like, how long do you feel amazing for?
Well, you feel really good from it. I mean, obviously, when you go back outside and you're exposed to more of the EMF, then it does impact you. But I do feel that doing more PEMF will really counteract a lot of the EMF that we get from all the cell towers everywhere and having our cell phones on us and everything like that. But if you don't have access to a PMF, you can go barefoot outside, because, again, we resonate with the Earth's frequency, and we get some of those negative ions when we're by like an ocean, where we're walking on like sand, when we're going in the park or the forest. We're picking up that energy, and it's actually makes us feel more relaxed, and it makes us feel really good.
From upgrading your body to upgrading your school, Central Falls High School in Rhode Island has introduced a course called Participatory Budgeting. It's an innovative approach to civic education. This program places real financial power, an allowance of $10,000 cash, in the hands of students who decide together how to use these funds for school improvements. The course welcomes students of all ages and backgrounds, offering education in areas such as financial planning, survey techniques, and local governance. The end product is a series of student-led proposals, which are then put to a school-wide vote, with at least 3/4 of the school participating. In a recent course, students brainstormed various improvement strategies, ultimately leading them to receive new gym equipment, more comfortable chairs in the library, and a revitalized cafeteria salad bar. The discussion of these desired improvements stimulated other people into action before the students even touched their $10,000 allowance. The success of the program was repeated in other schools. Research suggests that schools encouraging student involvement in problem solving see increased interest and attendance from both students and parents, and even improved grades. Students report feeling empowered by their newfound understanding of the journey from idea to realization and satisfaction with their involvement in bringing about these changes. Inspired by the project's success, the Central Falls City Council has begun to employ participatory budgeting elsewhere in the community. Recently, elderly and disabled residents were asked for suggestions for the use of $50,000 for accessibility upgrades. Central Falls High is the first to offer such a specific budgeting course, giving students valuable life skills. Instead of leaving budgetary decisions to a few, valuing the suggestions and opinions of a wider community helps to promote civic harmony and union. A nonprofit volunteer rescue organization in the U.S. has aided more than 100 senior dogs in need of medical attention due to neglect or the high cost of medical care. The distressing circumstances surrounding the life of a Yorkshire Terrier led to the establishment of this dedicated rescue operation. The small senior dog lived a very difficult life, but the organization provided her the love and care she had been deprived of. While not a shelter in the traditional sense, the rescue operation works with a network to foster parents who provide care to senior dogs until they find a new home or pass away. Dogs considered unadoptable live with their founder. Before pairing with foster parents, all dogs are evaluated and given any necessary medical treatment. Almost all rescue dogs require veterinary care. Yet it is rare to find a dog with as many medical issues as the terrier that inspired the rescue operation. The more volunteers the organization has, the more they can do. The operation is funded through adoption fees, financial contributions, and the sale of corporate and handmade merchandise. One of the most popular items is a t-shirt featuring the paw print of the terrier that inspired it all. The older dogs rescued by this nonprofit are showered with the love and attention they never had for whatever time they have left. Food Cycle is a UK-based charity transforming food waste from restaurants and grocers into nutritious meals for those in need, fostering community unification and combating loneliness. The weekly community meals, open to all, provide a lifeline for economically disadvantaged families, often replacing free school meals during the school holidays. The program creates safe, warm, and welcoming spaces where people can connect without the need to prove their circumstances. Some Food Cycle locations specifically address the unique challenges of refugee mothers, their children, and people living with HIV. Almost half of Food Cycle's guests have long-term health conditions. The organization ensures their meals are not only filling, but also nutritious, packed with fresh fruits and vegetables. This is particularly significant for low-income individuals who can't afford nutritious meals. Despite rising operational costs, Food Cycle is still able to create meals from donated produce, thanks to corporate sponsors and partners who supplied almost half of the charity's income last year. These partnerships also extend to food invention challenges, where companies compete to create meals from donated produce for communities in need. The impact is evident with a high number of guests reporting feeling less lonely and almost all saying they felt well fed. These community meals provide sustenance and a sense of companionship and community, giving people reasons to be cheerful. Want to share news from UNN with your friends and family? Memes are a great way to get the conversation going. And here is today's UNN meme of the day. It says, the digital metaverse or nature, your choice. We are now living in a new light age where all organic life thrives. The constructs of the old false matrix is falling away. To see more memes just like this one, follow our Meme Team Telegram channel at UNN Memes. Share them on Telegram and any other social media channels where you still have an account. Welcome to United Network News. I'm Sunny Galt.
Connect with United Network News online. The news portion of our website at unitednetwork.earth recaps the biggest stories impacting our planet. You can also watch inspiring videos from our field messengers and get great tips for creating your own field messenger reports. Easily share all of this content with your friends in just a few clicks, including our social media memes designed to ignite conversation and critical thinking. It's time to restore our home. Let's make history together at unitednetwork.earth.
Now, a look at regional stories around the world. Israel proposes a potential ceasefire in Gaza, which could include the release of more than 130 hostages. The Taliban places more restrictions on Afghan women, barring them from public life, healthcare, and education. In the UK, poverty levels are on the rise. Increased costs have forced many families to make significant sacrifices. And an inside look at Brazilian coffee production. Have a lack of labor standards created slavery-like conditions for workers? Israel has proposed a ceasefire to Hamas, which includes the release of more than 130 hostages held since October 7th. This proposition represents the longest period of ceasefire offered by Israel and could allow senior Hamas leaders to exit Gaza. However, it does not signal an end to the war. Frustrated by the government's perceived inaction, families of the hostages took to Parliament, demanding more active efforts in securing the release of their loved ones. Meanwhile, the war continues to claim lives, with a recent rocket attack resulting in the death of 21 Israeli soldiers, marking the deadliest attack since the beginning of the conflict. The Taliban is imposing severe restrictions on Afghan women's freedom, affecting their access to work, travel, and health care. These constraints particularly apply to unmarried women or those without a male guardian. The Taliban's measures have seen women mostly barred from public life and girls denied education beyond the 6th grade. They have also introduced strict dress codes, resulting in the arrest of women who don't comply with the prescribed hijab. Measures also extend to healthcare, with reports of female healthcare workers being detained for working without a male guardian. The Vice and Virtue Ministry has advised unmarried women to marry if they wish to continue working. The Taliban argue these regulations and their enforcement are in line with Sharia law and an essential part of their Islamic governance. The chairman of Toyota, the world's largest car maker, has voiced his opinion against focusing only on electric vehicles or EV technology. He says EVs will only cover a third of the car market, insisting that customers, not politics or regulations, should decide what kind of cars to buy. He advocates for a multi-pathway approach, suggesting that other green technologies like fuel cell EVs, hybrids, and hydrogen cars should also be considered. This view comes as many people globally still lack access to electricity, and EVs are costly and require charging infrastructure. Despite recent slow growth in the UK and European EV sales, the UK government is pushing manufacturers to increase EV production with penalties for non-compliance. These developments could affect consumer choices and affordability, with potential financial penalties passed on to buyers. Rising production costs and supply chain disruptions in China are pushing global toy manufacturers to diversify their manufacturing bases. Despite challenges such as the high seasonal demand and stringent safety standards, industries are exploring alternatives, with India, Mexico, Vietnam, and Malaysia emerging as potential investment destinations. However, the toy industry has been slow to shift, with mainland China still producing nearly 79% of toys sold in the U.S. and Europe as of mid-2021. While China's minimum wage is higher, countries like India offer lower labor costs, which could help to curb the rising toy prices witnessed in the markets like the UK. If manufacturers successfully shift to more cost-effective production centers, consumers could potentially benefit from stable or even lower toy prices. However, consumers may also face significant price hikes if the U.S. revokes China's permanent normal trade relations status. Kenya is planning to halt its government-to-government or G2G oil import arrangement, originally intended to stabilize the Kenyan shilling. The oil supply contract established with 3 Gulf national oil exporters in April of 2023 was an effort to curb the declining value of the Kenyan shilling, but the plan hasn't been as effective as anticipated. This decision has resulted in significant disruptions in the foreign exchange market and increased financial risk for private sector participants engaged in supporting the initiative. The intent to move away from the plan signals a return to private market solutions for the nation's energy sector. The termination of the G2G deal, which replaced the previously used open tender system for oil import, will come into effect in December of 2024. Since its inception, the Kenyan shilling depreciated by more than 20% against the U.S. dollar, heavily impacting the financial stability of the common Kenyan citizen. Poverty levels have risen dramatically in the UK, with families struggling to meet even their basic needs. Many households are surviving on incomes below 60% of the average, with some even living in extreme poverty. The energy crisis has been particularly damaging, leaving around 800,000 people without access to gas or electricity for more than a day due to financial limitations. The rising cost of living has forced families to make significant sacrifices. Families are now having to make tough decisions, such as whether to send their child to school or use the bus fare money for essential groceries. Referral to food banks and requests for emergency funds have also tripled since 2019, indicating the severity of the crisis. Despite the government's claim of investing billions to alleviate poverty, the problem appears to be worsening. More than 2 million UK residents will be without gas and electricity this winter as they cannot afford prepayment meter top-ups. Such situations leave people without the basic comforts of a warm meal or hot shower. According to the latest figures, the crisis extends to more than 5 million people already in debt to their energy suppliers. These individuals are at risk of enforced debt collection actions or mandatory installation of prepayment meters. Households with children under 4 are of particular concern, as these families face double the debt and are more likely to be unable to afford their prepayment meters. In the past year, half of these families disconnected because they couldn't afford to top up, a significantly higher rate compared to households without children. A growing number of French employees are earning the minimum wage per month, a trend fueling nationwide discontent. This increase, now affecting 17% of the workforce, or 3.1 million people, is due to inflation outpacing basic wage prices. Therefore, those previously earning slightly above minimum wage are finding themselves at this lower income level. This wage depreciation is also impacting the French economy by reducing overall consumption. Tax exemptions applicable only to minimum wage further reinforce employers' tendency to pay employees the lowest legal wage. The government is considering profit-sharing initiatives, training opportunities for career advancement, and a comprehensive reform of tax relief for low-wage earners. Amazon's French warehouse business has been fined 32 million euros or $35 million by France's privacy watchdog for excessive employee surveillance through an advanced monitoring system. The system, used for tracking package movement, puts workers under continuous scrutiny and pressure, breaching the EU's General Data Protection Regulation. The handheld barcode scanner, or stow machine gun, enabled monitoring to the nearest second, requiring employees to provide reasons for any work interruptions, which is illegal under EU privacy rules. Amazon is also criticized for retaining employee data longer than required. Amazon refutes these claims, maintaining that such systems are an industry standard and crucial for maintaining operational safety, quality, and efficiency. The United States is no longer able to provide additional military aid to Ukraine due to internal political disputes and the fact that the country is broke. The U.S. last sent security assistance to Ukraine in late December, but lack of funds and congressional approval has halted any further aid. As disagreements between Congress and the White House continue, more than $110 billion in aid for Ukraine and Israel remains stalled. Senators are now seeking a bipartisan deal to provide nearly $61 billion in aid to Ukraine, at least that's what they say. However, the proposed package is facing opposition, particularly from Republicans who suggest reducing the amount of assistance. Since Russia's invasion in February of 2022, the U.S. has allegedly provided more than $44.2 billion in assistance to Ukraine. Despite funds drying up, some weapons previously purchased will continue to be supplied. The commercial real estate sector in the U.S. is facing a debt crisis due to increased interest rates and high vacancies, leading to hardships for property owners and lenders. More than $2.81 trillion in loans are set to expire by 2028, potentially leading to drastically higher payments at a time of increased financial pressure. Many of these loans were secured at lower interest rates, and their refinancing could significantly raise the cost of holding the debt. In addition, changed work patterns with more people working from home have led to reduced cash flow for property owners struggling to sell or rent office space. Small and mid-sized banks, which hold a significant portion of commercial real estate loans, are particularly vulnerable. Several property firms have already succumbed to the crisis, including JER Investors and WeWork. Haiti's National Police Force is severely depleted, with nearly 3,300 officers leaving the force in the past 3 years due to the extreme risks involved. The under-equipped and outgunned police face powerful gangs, which are believed to hold influence over the majority of the capital. This situation led to the displacement of nearly 200,000 people and escalated violence, including indiscriminate killings and sexual assaults. An estimated 4,000 people were killed last year, with close to 3,000 reported kidnappings. The worsening humanitarian crisis calls for immediate international support, with Kenya being the only country offering to lead an international force. However, the decision to deploy awaits a court hearing due this Friday. Jamaica has strengthened its fight against domestic violence with updated laws and increased penalties. The upgraded laws now recognize harassment and property damage as facets of domestic violence and have increased the penalties for breaching protection orders. Now, not just the victims, but concerned spouses, parents, social workers, and children's advocates can request protective orders. The government is also extending its support through a hotline, additional domestic violence shelters, and special police training. The hotline, in operation since September, has already handled more than 7,400 cases. The updates follow a health survey indicating that 40% of Jamaican women experience some sort of intimate partner violence. Canada is capping international student permits for 2 years due to the unprecedented demand causing housing shortages. Now, the restriction will reduce permits issued by around a third, also limiting subsequent work permits for foreign students. The change also affects spouses of international students who will no longer be eligible for these permits. This policy shift is in response to a massive influx of international students that has increased the housing crisis by driving up rental prices across the nation. The cap may also worsen labor shortages in the restaurant and retail sectors, where international students form a significant part of the workforce. The greatest impact will be seen among students from India and China, who constitute 40% and 12% of the foreign student population, respectively. In the Brazilian coffee production, slavery-like conditions continue to affect countless workers, despite the ethical standards promised by coffee giants such as Starbucks, McDonald's, and Nestle. These companies have fallen short of properly implementing their self-regulated labor standards, resulting in continuous cases of forced labor and poor working conditions. Victims' attempts to seek justice through voluntary complaint procedures have often led to frustration, with their cases being dismissed or ignored without consequences. This has highlighted the need for stronger legal and regulatory measures against forced labor and in favor of due diligence. The European Union, where many coffee multinationals are based, has recently seen positive steps towards improving corporate accountability in global supply chains. However, these efforts face opposition from corporate lobbies attempting to weaken them. Want the latest updates from UNN? Be sure to follow our channel on Telegram called United Network News Channel. This is our official Telegram channel. It's where you'll find direct links to our newscasts and our in-depth field messenger reports. And be sure to check out CARE's new Health and Wellness Department. You can connect with the Center for Health and Wellness of Earth, or CHWE community, by joining their Telegram channel. Search for Center for Health Wellness of Earth. And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. After the causal war, who were the kings of the realms? Who were the true controllers of Earth? You were considered a citizen or a subject of many kingdoms, and not just on Earth. How did these kingdoms tie into the old monetary control structure? In today's report, we will answer all of these questions and more. An update on aspects of the restoration plan, from media to assurance, essentials, and much more. What is the new United Marketplace, and why is it so important to you? Now, here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. She's here with her whiteboard. It's time to learn.
It's class time with Kim.
I like it. I like it. We always learn a lot when you bring out the whiteboard.
Well, there's a number of different things I want to go over today, because people are asking, like, why is it so hard to do this? Why is it so hard to do that? Why is this taking so long? You know, and I wish there was a drive-through that you could go through and you could order maybe a cheeseburger, some fries, a milkshake, and full restoration
of the planet. Yeah, that'd be great.
And I've asked if anybody knows of one, and I haven't gotten one yet, so I keep trucking along. Okay, so a couple little things to tidy up first. Number one, China's markets are still continuing to go down. They will continue to go down. And remember, the government of China actually owns more than 50% of all of the companies in China. So in some cases, a lot more. In some cases, I guess slightly less, but it's right around there in general. That being said, people have asked, well, there's obviously a capital flight, leaving the country. But a lot of that is IOUs. For example, in China Petroleum is a big one. The foreign ownership allegedly was done in order to get cheaper prices on oil and gas, those types of things. So it's not really a capital flight per se. It's just that not to the tune of $6 trillion like the news is talking about. But in value in the market, yes, I would say definitely yes. Now, the thing that the market is not reflecting is the portion ownership owned by China. So the portion that's owned by China, obviously, there's no contribution there. There's not a whole lot of sales there. There's not enough to carry those companies worldwide. There's a whole lot of promises and absolutely zero delivery on a lot of items. And the tsunami is moving. It's only been 48 hours since we started talking about it. So it is moving. It is continuing to happen. And they are somewhat considering the fall of communism in the country and the advent of a different type of political system, and definitely considering 100% foreign ownership of corporations in the country. So we'll see. Is that going to be enough to save? It wouldn't Is that going to be enough to save China? It wouldn't if the communistic structure and the 54% or even 10% or 20% ownership was still mandated by the country. Mm-hmm. Next, another thing I've received about 50 times this week, so I'm going to show this little video here. In Charlotte, North Carolina this week, there were a lot of videos floating around about this display of what is this, you know, oh my God, what is happening? You know, the SSP and the Q clock is even trying to promote this, whatever this is. So it's kind of all over the place. So let me tell you what this is.
Okay.
This here is a drone show. If you are in the U.S., or I don't know if any other country does it, but I know they've done it here, the 4th of July for the last couple of years has been more drone shows, and they're small little drones all coupled together, that type of thing, than it has been actual explosive fireworks due to concerns about fires starting, concerns of people hurting themselves, this type of thing. So it seems like the world, at least in the U.S., I can say, and I know that they do them in Japan and in China and a number of other places in the world, it seems that everybody's kind of moving towards the drone show. Apparently, also, the secret space program is also moving towards the drone show. Now, is there enough drones in the world to stage a fake alien invasion, which is where they're going? I'm going to say probably not. Not at the ready, anyway. They'd probably need several months in manufacturing, and then there's the coordinating of the drone, the people that control the drones and all of this stuff. So probably not at this time. I know that's another rumor that's going around out there, so I just kind of wanted to tell you the backstory behind that. They have tried to use it. It's also being reported on the 2012 portal site. I think that's Cobra. It's everywhere. You know, somebody in, somebody out, nobody in, nobody out. You know, and they're talking about obviously an incoming alien invasion of some sort, I guess. They could hope. One could hope for that, I guess. But it's simply not the case. Now, I'm going to start this with explaining, because if you haven't been watching us for a while, the causal war. You've heard me mention it if you've been around for a while, and it happened about 250,000 years ago, which is a drop in the bucket compared to what happened during the Dark Ages. Mm-hmm. So the Dark Ages were going on for about 3 billion years, but there was a big war here on Earth. Now, there are people out there that talk a lot about Atlantis and what life was like in Atlantis as if it's like a country on Earth. That is absolutely not the case. They glorify Atlantis because it was actually part of a reptilian race that came to Earth at that time and maintained control over the causal plane. Mm-hmm. So today we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to tie it in to the financial system of the world and the ownership of you. So you fully understand the mechanism behind it. And if it gets confusing, Sonny, I want you to stop me because this is a lot of information. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about first so you understand what I'm speaking of. So the word realm literally means a kingdom. An area that you or someone has ruled over for a period of time or continues to rule over. So that is what the literal translation is of realm. It's important to understand that because we need to understand who the kings were in the multiverse and how that affected Earth before I can tell you why we had so many bonds against us, so to speak. Okay? All right. So we are in the third density, okay? There's obviously planes inside the third density, but it's easier to discuss this from this point of view. Okay, so under the third density, you have 2, 1, And these are densities, so I'll just write that right here so people understand. And then you have 1 going in the other direction down, and 2, and 3, I don't know if I went off the board yet. Yeah, I'm down here. Yeah, I'm down here at 9. Okay. 8, 7, 5, and 4. Okay. Oops, that's got to go on that side. Okay, so this is what we call the lower astral here. Mm-hmm. Now, this is 4. Oh, we're going to be on this side because we're on the upper realm. So 4th density, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So just to give you an idea. Okay, so each one of these densities in the multiverse, and then of course when you get to the 9th density, that's where source lives. And when you get to the 9th density down here, that's where anti-source lives. Each one of these densities is considered under the new agreement or the peace agreement called the Agreement for Co-Creation, Process, and Ownership over the Race of Co-Creation, which is us. When that agreement was enforced, that gave certain beings control over the realms. So these are the kingdoms of the multiverse, so to speak. Now, you may be familiar with the fact that before 250,000 years ago, and everybody started talking about Atlantis, people also discuss on the internet, which is true, we had 5 root races on Earth. And each one of those root races was governed by something or someone else from somewhere else. So let's talk about the realms and who had ownership first. Okay. So, believe it or not, okay, the 9th density was run by Enlil. Let me see. Yep. And Source jointly. And it was an agreement, and it had to do with essence. So Enlil not only participated in the rulership of Earth, he also had control of the light essence and down here, dark essence.
So if you get one, Kim, do you get the other? Like if you have it in the upper realms, you get it in the lower as well?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
This was by agreement because Enki, Enlil, and Marduk all agreed to create balance under the Council of Nine, which is why they were granted the rulership over the kingdom or the realm known as the 9th density down, 9th density up. Okay?
Okay.
I think I got that right. So, all right, next we have Lucifer in the 8th down here, the fallen angel. This is also the source of the fallen angel matrix. And Lucifer's sidekick was Baphomet. You heard that name before. Mm-hmm. And up here we had Lucerne, which was the equal and opposite. You have angels and you have fallen angels down here. So we had Lucerne up here. 7th, we had Marduk. Both 7 up and 7 down. Oh, I'm down here now. My handwriting is terrible. Need to work on that. Okay, so we had Marduk. Marduk stands for, Mar stands for the sea, mm-hmm. And he is the Duke of the sea of consciousness.
Right.
Now, he controlled both light and dark consciousness. The dial of destiny as it relates to consciousness. Control over your personal consciousness. Next, we had Enki. In the 6th, Enki and Baal were buddies. We also have Enki up here too. Now, ball, so people talk a lot about technologies in Antarctica. Oh my God, we're all going to die. Well, one of the main technologies that used to be in Antarctica that is not there anymore is the ball frequency machine. Okay, so these planes of existence, these densities also are related to the planes of existence that exist within your human and who rules those here on Earth. Okay, so ball controls your mind control. Every mind control program on the planet came from this system right here. So frequency controls the consciousness, which also controls the emotions, which also controls the etherical field and your essence. Interesting. Okay, so Enki is plane 6, which is also your mental, density 6, which is also your mental plane. Then we have the causal plane. Now, this is the big one here. The causal plane, we know them as the workers in the causal plane are known as your reptilian race. They're also known as the Orionites. They're also known as the Atlanteans, believe it or not. And additionally, they were run by someone called the Red Queen. And the Red Queen in cooperation with the Abraxas were the kings of the causal plane, causal density, both in the upper and the lower. And that's what the causal wars were all about. The Red Queen is also called the anti-Pleiadian queen because that's where you had, if you have Pleiades down here, you had Pleiades up here, same thing. So from that point on, that's when that overlay started that I've talked about before, where you're seeing, you know, everything centered around the 5th density. And we were very concerned that it would bleed up further. So the 5th density here and the 5th density in the lower astral basically became one for a long time. So in the 4th lower astral, you'll know this name too. Can't write correctly here. I'm already in 3 down here, but here we go. Make a new 3. This is Astaroth. You've heard of the demon Astaroth before. If you haven't, I'm sure you can look him up. And then in the upper realm, let's see, we had Regul, the angel Regul. Reguel, maybe I'm saying that wrong. Okay, so during the Dark Ages, these two parties were, how do we say this? You have fallen angels and you have angels. The demons basically are your highest realm of the fallen angels, and then you have other realms of fallen angels. So Regul and Astaroth were counterparties and counterpartners as it relates to governing the astral density of the entire multiverse. Okay, now, when we get to the 3rd, now we're going to get into some more names that you know. You had Raphael. That's Angel Raphael up here and Archangel Raphael down here, because now we're getting into what's called the null zone. So 3 down to 3 up, you would consider a separate realm unto itself, like a neutral zone, or what I call the null zone. Okay, Raphael, and then you had Archangel, still up here. And you had the same thing in 3 down. Okay, and then we had Gabriel over 2. And Archangel Gabriel down here. And also up here, and vice versa. So what is above, so is below. So
Kim, does that mean that's the same entity or like a negative
No,
version?
they're two different entities. One is a fallen angel and one is still an angel.
Okay. Did it originate from the same entity? Is it like it split or something?
All angels originated from source, fallen or otherwise. There were some that were selected to fall down here.
Okay. So I'm just trying to figure out if was it ever the same entity? Because it has the same name, so it's a little confusing, right?
It is confusing, but you have archangels and you have angels. Angels are the ones that still are governing for the light, and archangels are the ones that are still governing for the darkness. And yes, they have the same name in English.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Okay, so it's different. It's probably a different name, in frequency or whatever, but okay, I gotcha.
And then 1 and 1 was Michael. AEL. And then Archmichael. So, after the causal plane war, this became the structure of the multiverse, at least for the last 250,000 years.
Okay.
Now, this also predetermined the control over Earth. And these are the rulers of the rulers of the rulers, and I will explain why. So, what we see here is the third density is kind of like the line in the sand for both sides. Because both parties could actually exist in 2 and 1 and 1 and 2. But that is why Earth was almost like, I talked about it before, Earth being the last line of defense, Earth being a nexus planet, Earth being a gateway planet. We weren't the only one. There were a lot that were destroyed. You've probably heard the story of Tiamat and a few other things. So now we have determined that every kingdom in the multiverse was ruled by somebody.
Right.
Or assigned to somebody. So I've got a lot more to go here. Now let's talk about Earth. Since Earth was such an important planet and everybody wanted to control it, and during the Dark Age, we were pretty gosh darn dark. Okay, still trying to get rid of all these lines. I got to get there's a better way to do this, isn't there?
And Kim, follow-up question. So we see these dark entities that were up in the higher dimensions. Is that simply because we were in a dark age? If we were in a light age, Source would have never let that happen. Is that right?
Well, we would have been no, we wouldn't have been there. We would have been in part for a lot of years, but prior to that, into a neutral age. The multiverse has never seen a light age yet. And by neutral age, that means that we had a neutral zone, both parties could come and go there, and then you had our upper realm with no interference through to the causal plane, and then you had the lower realms here with no interference from the upper planes.
Yes. Okay.
Yep. Everybody stayed in their corner. Life on this side was our life. Life on that side, was what it was. I mean, it's not for me anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So here for Earth, let's talk about the rulership of Earth. So the rulership of Earth, the ultimate rulership of Earth after the war that took place here 250,000 years ago was anti-source. Sorry to say, but it was. I should probably do this on 2 different sides. So you remember me saying the dark never got too far here, that we were always 21% and they were only 79%.
Right.
So they had 79% control of Earth. And we, on our side, believe it or not, still had 21% control, even though it certainly didn't feel that way. So the Abraxas, So 6 and 6 in this world, and I'll explain why. So if density 3, where we live, is right in the middle, then you'll have 6 densities going up, and then you'll have the neutral zone, and then you have 6 densities going down, because pretty much this was joint ownership when you were in the neutral zone.
Okay.
So now also here, we still had the abraxas. Now the abraxas reported directly to anti-source. Okay. Now, burst from the abraxas, we have people like the Order of the Black Sun. You also have the Black Nobility. You've heard us talk about some of these Italian names, and Greek, there's some Greek names in there and a few others. Okay, then underneath these people, you have, I'm going to call them the SSP. So the Secret Space Program, 15 militaries would be here. So they're pretty high up in the ranks. They report directly, you know, to these people.
Right.
Well, I'm missing some. Well, I'll come down on this side. So the SSP, and then equal to the SSP on this level, because I wrote down all my notes here. Let's see. You would have had the 9 eagles.
You're
so these,
Maureen, just so you know.
Oh, am I?
It's okay. Just a little bit.
Rein it in, Kim, rein it in. Okay.
There you go.
So we would have had the 9 eagles here. And that has nothing to do with the people that tell you to take it easy in any way. So this is your black eagle, your brown eagle. This was, black eagle was the position that Bush Sr. held as an example, and Prescott before him. Mussolini was black eagle. So some of these are names that you know. We're starting to get into people that you know. But this is kind of how they got so much power. So we're only talking about one line and one of the 5 ruling parties of Earth, other than anti-source being the 6th.
Right.
So we'll call them number 5 over here. Okay, so underneath the SSP, we would have had people like the Thule Society. The scientist of Project Paperclip. The Jesuit Order. We would have had, let's see, over here, we would have had other groups like the Vatican. We would have also seen Templars over here. We would have also seen Langley 5 over here. And I call them Langley 5, 5-star general people of the world. We would have also seen CIA, MI6, and every other intelligence agency on Earth. Every intelligence agency on Earth. And every military on Earth. Underneath this umbrella. There are other people that reported to the SSP, all of those lovely human experiments that went on in DUMBs. You know, if you were recruited into any one of those programs of anyone that actually worked in a DUMB, you were underneath these people. These people ran you on behalf of these people, and then eventually the Abraxas. So you can talk a lot about a few other different groups here. We can talk about the CDC under the SSP. We can talk about the FDA. We can talk about food control. You know, all those lovely little crickets they want everybody to eat? There we go. This is where now you know where it comes from. Food control systems, oil control systems. Any other industries you want to name here? There's a big chart of them that I had put online a few years ago. I think it's right over there. I could probably grab it for you. You can't really read it. It's too small anyway. But controlling of many different industries. So oil control systems, so you know where the Rockefellers and who they report to. You know, and there's others around the world as well. So this is basically the upline to the Abraxas, one of the rulers of Earth. Okay, and also the controllers. And this is going to sound, well, I'll start with everybody else first. Okay, so rulers of Earth. So we know about Marduk. And Marduk is a title. And then we have, let's see. Okay, trying to go through my notes here without dumping anything I might need. No, don't need that. Okay. No, gonna have to wing it here. Okay, we had Marduk, Enki, Enlil, and I have to move some of these people here. Oh, is this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I had to make some room. Sorry about that. So Marduk, Enki, and Enlil, and Lucifer would be with the Abraxas here. Marduk, Enki, Enlil, and we have Satan.
Lovely.
I know. Welcome to the rulership of Earth. So each one of these entities took over one of the 5 root races on Earth. So you had brown, black, red, white, and yellow.
Okay.
So we would say the Asians would be yellow, you know, obviously the white Europeans or whatnot at the time. The red race are all your indigenous people, not all, but a lot of your indigenous people, and so on and so forth. So each one controlled a different area. So a different group of humans, they took ownership and possession of those humans. So this was your first layer of control. Now, Marduk, Enki, and Enlil, we just talked about the Satan and Abraxas lines here, the black nobility and all the black sun. But Marduk, Enki, and Enlil had a different structure. So they had the 21 parents, all from different colors and, you know, to manage the different races. Now, as far as you as a human are concerned, the ultimate ownership of you and all control structures on Earth was anti-source, 79%, in-source, 21%. So you had ultimately the entire control structure then gets sucked up into here. So the 21 parents, and then you had 42 coven masters. And this number fluctuates, so don't quote me on that, but somewhere around 112 coven members. And then those members would then trail down into the Order of the Dragon. So we had 9 sectors, 9 Order of the Dragon families, also known as the Illuminati. Okay, so this is your line of Solomon people, and so on and so forth. Okay, so each one of these, much like the 9 eagles that were over here, controlled a different sector on Earth. And the eagles and the 9 Order of the Dragon family heads would often communicate. They would work together. But I'm telling you this for a reason, because this is going to explain what's been happening for the last 24 hours, 48 hours, and even probably a week, based on us saying we pulled the roots of the bonds away. Okay. And it was only a matter of time before everything fell apart. So the Order of the Dragon was predominantly responsible for 2 areas of the world. political control, and financial control. Whereas the order of the black sun, all the way up to the Abraxas, an anti-source over here, and Satan and Lucifer, you could say that they had more of a intelligence, and military, and media. So we all know that political control, financial control, intelligence control, military control, media control, and in a lot of cases, corporate control. We've got corporates over here and corporates over there. Okay, on both sides. Corporations could be things like Tier 1 banks, Tier 2 banks, 3 banks, Federal Reserve. Political sectors, obviously we have governments, minus your military and your agencies. You have things like the United Nations fall under here. You have people like NATO fall under here. In part, as far as the military participation, but you'd also have NATO over here under governments, right? And financial. So no money, no government, no NATO. You can have the military running around like crazy, which they are doing right now, by the way. The allies are kind of going against the United States, and it's hilarious, really, because they still think the U.S. has money, which they don't. Nobody has any of that. And then eventually here you would get to the financial control by Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Federal Reserve should be above that. Sorry. Okay, 1, 2, Tier. Okay, and you're somewhere down here. Now, of course, you've got secret societies that report to both sides that you are aware of. We talked about, for example, the Jesuit order. You have the Order of the Rose. You have a number of other societies that fall under the tutelage of one side or another. But essentially, it's pretty much full control. By covens, we could talk about the Sanhedrin. We can talk about any number of covens you probably wouldn't recognize on both sides. Because both sides had covens as well. So if you're down here, okay, in the financial system, the bank, if you bank with a Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 bank, which you're talking about like credit unions, smaller banks like, trying to think of a non-Tier 1 bank off the top of my head, Comerica Bank, if you're here in the States, there's one for you. I'm sure there's plenty of other ones around the world. Okay, so you're down here. So the first lien that goes against you and anything that you have and everything that you have will compile Tier 4 into Tier 3. So Tier 3 banks control every human that is in Tier 4 banks and more. Now Tier 2 banks will control everything that is at both 4, 3, and 2. Tier 1 banks control every human account on the planet that was in 4, 3, 2, and 1. And the Federal Reserve controls them all. So if you take, it's like a Christmas tree. On that level, it's like a Christmas tree. I'm trying to find a place to draw it, okay? You people are here, okay? There's a bond against you right here for the former custody. Whether it doesn't matter if you're in a Tier 4, a Tier 3, a Tier 2, or a Tier 1 bank, because everybody from here on down goes into the Tier 1 bank and you have all of these bonds. Then they issue new bonds off of you for every level you go up. So Tier 4, Tier 3 has the right to issue bonds against all Tier 4 banks. This is your credit system. Tier 2 has the right to issue bonds off of Tier 3 and 4. Tier 1 banks can issue off every single bank basically on Earth. They are the controllers. Then the Federal Reserve goes ahead and issues a bond against everybody underneath there. And there's your financial system. Not quite. Okay, because the Order of the Dragon, all 9 sectors control 9 sectors, and the Federal Reserve controls 12 jurisdictions. So now, these people, let's get up to the Order of the Dragon, had the right to issue a bond against all of you in tier 1, 2, 3, 4 banks and the Federal Reserve, and that is what existed here. This is why you see them having so much control. Next, the UN has the right to issue bonds against every government in the world. The government has the right to issue bonds against every single one of your human. That's why these people that are filing UCC filings, nobody really cares when you get up here. That's funny. You know, it's very funny. That's funny. So governments would issue bonds against you, every citizen in its country. Everyone who's registered as a citizen of that country belongs to the government. They own you. They have a bond against every single one of your persons. This is the control of you personally. This is the control of you financially. Now, governments will issue bonds also against politicians, against everyone that works in the government, all of you, and they have the right then, on the Order of the Dragon, to issue bonds against, on the UN. The UN comes in between here, United Nations. So the United Nations then has the opportunity to issue a bond against every single government of the in the world, which also includes you. Mm-hmm. Do you see how that's kind of going up the control structure here? Yeah. Then the United Nations and all its ancillary governments and everyone else underneath it, the Order of the Dragon has the right to issue another bond against all the governments, all the countries, and you. Wow. As it goes into another whole collateral pool. The Coven members, the same thing. The Coven members exist on both sides above the 9 eagles. So the 9 eagles, at one point in time, had the right to issue bonds against media, all their corporate structure, NATO, all militaries of the world, all intelligence agencies of the world. They would group them all together, and then they would hand them on a nice little platter to the black nobility, who then would issue a bond against all of the 9 eagles and all of their control systems in different sectors of the world. And then, so the black nobility. And then we go again. So Coven members on both sides, then there was about 112 of them. So each one of them had different sectors and different families of the Order of the Dragon. Could be anyone else here, Committee of 300, Council on Foreign Relations, Tavistock Institute, Club of Rome, and all the other people we've come to know and just love, right? The Heritage Foundation and all other political control sectors. So but 112 covens could then take all of the people in the different corporations and the different societies underneath their control. So they would all be assigned different sectors, different countries, different different places of political control, different places of financial control. And then they would issue 112 different new collateral pools against everybody else's upline. Now, the 42 Coven Masters would then collect all of whichever covens reported to which master. They would collect everything else in their downline, and they would issue another bond against you. So you were leverage. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
But there's more. You get the Ginsu knives and the bamboo basket. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, but there's more. Okay, so 21 parents then took control of all the Coven Masters, all the covens, and they re-leveraged all of the downline again into a new collateral pool. That pool was then split into 3 parts between Marduk, Enki, and Enlil, and on this side, between Satan and Lucifer, who then eventually would pool it up all again. Each one would get their own pool, depending on which one of the parents they controlled. Then all the pools would come together and were either belong to some faction of anti-source to 75% of the universe and 21% to custody to source. Phew.
You mean 79%?
Yeah.
79%.
79 anti-source,
right?
21% source. Now that number has flipped because we've kind of gotten rid of most of these people's control. Yeah, they can still talk to the intelligence agencies. They can still talk to the militaries. But now you know why that they call and they still respond to these people. Mm-hmm. But the system that started breaking down about a week ago is all of these pools of collateral started disappearing one by one, inch by inch. And yesterday, it happened to be the government's pool and the tier 1 banks pool. So that's what happened yesterday. And that is what's sending everybody into a tailspin. The same thing over here. NATO is still yipping. They think, so the reason why NATO's talking about moving 90,000 troops, and behind the scenes, they're telling the U.S. if you don't want to participate, because your job in this whole mess was to fund us all. Mm-hmm. If you're not providing the U.S. dollars to all of us, we're going to leave you behind. Now that's hilarious. That is hilarious to me. And I'm laughing at that because NATO, hey, all the other countries over there are broke too. They lost their bonds. Didn't you hear? And the bonds that you had against you are also gone. What that means in totality is every single level that went up the food chain here had a line of credit against its pool of bonds. Mm-hmm. That allowed for its existence. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So financial control is a lot more complicated, and then it ties into the realms and the realm controllers. So this is just control of the 5 base root races on planet Earth, which predominantly still exist to this day. Mm-hmm. You know, they might squabble if, you know, one person gets together with another person. And I often wonder if that's why they try to create those racial labels, because they're not purely, you know, can you imagine the conflict? Well, you know, if say a white person marries a black person or something like that, which one owns them? Which collateral pool do they go into?
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
Huh.
How is that for interesting? Which kind of makes sense why they try to, quote unquote, keep the bloodlines pure, and that's why the royals are worth the price or something like that. You know, that's why they're probably worth more in the collateral pool, because everybody had their own bloodline that they controlled.
Keep it clean.
Keep it clean, because now you're going to have to cross collateralize, and then it gets really messy. You think this is messy? It gets worse. Yeah. So it has been a process, and it has been a learning process for me too. You know, so the goal in restoration of Earth is to take a hold of this realm, which is what is being completed now. So we're not 100% there yet. I'd say we're probably have a little bit more to go and to control the third density or this realm. Mm-hmm. Once we have control of the entire realm, then we have a lot more, let's just say, flexibility here. Now, are these people just going to get up and walk away because it's the full moon tomorrow and Satan didn't come and the Abraxas didn't come and Lucifer didn't come and nobody pooped out a bunch of money to the media, to the militaries, to the corporations that they control, to big pharma, to the intelligence agencies? You know, I don't know. I don't know what the SSP is going to do, and we still have black nobility families out there. You get rid of one, then another one takes over. It's his turn or her turn or whatever it is in their world. And the same thing goes with these people. Now, that's why they inbreed. You ever wonder why they inbreed like that?
Well, I figured it was a bloodline.
You know, that families marry.
Yeah, bloodline kind of situation.
Yeah, because the ownership of you is very, very important to these people up here.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why they keep you alive. They need your collateral for like a certain amount of time to indebt themselves to the Omega system. Remember the video I did like about a week or so ago where I told you about that it was the ultimate lender. the only lender on earth. You know, we concern ourselves with mortgages and all of this, but in order to get rid of all the liens that were on you way down here, we had to get through all of these people at the same time, and then these people.
Yeah. Kim, can you show us, just kind of for fun, what, how things are changing, meaning that's the old setup, and in a light age under source, I would just love to see a comparison to the very simple setup that we are moving into now.
Right. So now that you understand this, and part of the things when I get all excited, I'm like, woo, we went down another layer, you know?
Yeah.
So Marduk and Enki, we'll write them in the same order. Okay, and obviously we know who that is, right? So when we started, we were talking about Earth here. Anti-source had 79% control, and source had 21% control of Earth, and that includes Alpha, the source-based AI, and this is Omega. Now, these guys here, because they were the balance people, they only had access up to level 7 in the system, in Alpha. Because remember, they had up and down. I think it's 7 or 8. 8, sorry. 8. So these guys here, it's minimal. I'd say in Omega, they might have had some access to the 9th of Omega, just because of the Abraxas. And these are your ruling AIs for the entire multiverse based on the structure that I just showed you. So I'd say that each one of these had their own collateral pool for both sides. Each one of these had their own collateral pool only for the one side. And that's kind of where it started. Now, where we're down to as of this morning, yesterday, we're down all the way to the bottom now, because remember, I was talking about giving governments a shot.
Yeah.
And we waited and we waited and we waited. And so we pulled the government's collateral pools yesterday.
Okay.
We also pulled tier 1 bank pools yesterday. Prior to that was the Fed.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yep. We've also pulled the media pools. We've pulled all of the military pools. They no longer have bonds that, go all the way up here to the top. So we're kind of down on that level now. We're beyond the United Nations. We're beyond governments. We're beyond Federal Reserve. And now we're getting down to the point where we're pulling all tier 2 and tier 3 and tier 4 bank holds on you. And pretty much once we release government bonds against you, then all the rest of the collateral pools fall like dominoes, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So ownership of governments is no longer there. Now, the governments have a big problem, and this is the mass hysteria that's been going on behind the scenes today, because even more so than it was before, because it isn't going to be long before we see the fall of every central bank in the world, because they were all issued lines of credit against those bonds. That was their line of credit.
And now they don't
the
have
good
them.
faith and credit of the United States government. Yeah. That's what that means on those pretty papers you have.
Wow.
In your pocket.
Yeah.
Yep. So now what we're looking at is we're right here now. And this has nothing to do with density 1, plane 1, or the cleaning of computers. It does in part because there are closed loop payment systems and collateral pools that existed in there too. But now we're down to getting ready to reach you without any liens. Now, what happens sometimes, and part of the reason why, I'm like, why is it not showing up in that person's account?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it getting stopped here now? Why is it getting stopped there now? And part of that is because you weren't you. You were not a person. You were collateral. So I couldn't transfer direct source energy besides all of the convoluted stuff that was in between, put here not by the humans, put here by these people, okay?
Right.
Used somewhat by the NSA and some humans and that kind of thing, but really the ultimate control was always here. They only gave this little humans down here a little bit to deal with. But I had to figure out, I'm like, why does this keep happening? Why is it, okay, it gets so far all the way down and then, plane 1, density 1, and for some reason, it's because I figured out that it was going right back to someplace else because you don't exist.
Wow.
You're dead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why source can't transfer energy to a dead person?
Right.
Who's lost at sea or lost in the sea of essence or lost in the sea of energy or lost here or lost there.
Right.
So anyway, that's the portion I wanted to kind of explain to you today because people keep asking me why. Now, a lot of people will look at this and they'll say, well, that's great. When? Right? When? Okay. So I've been telling you for years that regardless of whether money is gold-backed or not gold-backed, it's all about the allocation numbers and the quotas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which supply and demand, there has to be a demand for it in order for there to be a supply of energy. You can't have 200% energy. Even your battery, if you leave it plugged in for 2 weeks and you plug it into the wall, it's never going to get above 100%. You might burn the battery out a little bit, but it's never going to get above 100%. You too will not get above 100%. Okay. So that being said, and it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's talk about restoration and what it takes to do restoration. All right, so we had a thought and a plan to create something called life assurance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we may call it something else in the future, and that's fine. It doesn't matter what it's called, but then we had to define what does it do.
Right.
So ultimately, okay, and then I got to tell you all the steps that we had to take to get there. Ultimately, what life assurance actually is it's meant to give people medical freedom. Now, what does that mean? That gives you the choice and the ability to choose your method of treatment for whatever it is going on within your person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the thought process here was like, well, you can choose a naturopathic doctor. You can choose the medicine man in the woods of Haiti. You can choose, or Africa, somewhere in the bush. You can choose whatever you want to choose. Now, there are some treatments, for example, that are innovative and new, and they are only available in certain countries.
Mm-hmm.
However, people can't afford to get there. People can't afford to go there, and people don't even know to look there to see if there is something else.
Right.
But let's just say they did. Mm-hmm. Let's just say there was a global marketplace, so to speak, of practitioners, doctors, lawyers, scientists, and a science and research and development center to support that and those choices, to make sure every human is informed. You can pick now. So let's just say if you had, I don't know, let's pick a disease here. Let's pick cancer. Just going to pick that. You can choose, and people have the right to choose. We cannot infringe on people's rights here. They would have the right to choose conventional medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Allopathic medicine, as it's called, like chemotherapy. They could choose radiation, whatever their normal allopathic medicine doctor. Or they could choose anyone from the medicine man in the bush of Africa that's been killing cancer for years, and have the money to get there, wherever that person is.
And stay
You make an informed decision, because there has to be a place, a centralized place, where people can get this information and make an informed decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hence the reason for the marketplace, in part. Now it'll grow into that, and eventually the Center for Health and Wellness of Earth. Okay. Now, innovative medicine. Okay. Some of this stuff, let me go back up here a second. Okay, so in addition to natural medicine, there are a lot of people out there that like to also treat themselves. You know, maybe it's just something real small, you know, you got a little cut and, you know, you can treat that yourself, or, you know, you are aware of the use of alternative types of medicine, herbs, moringa tree, you know, rooibos, all kinds of different stuff out there that you could possibly use, or using food as medicine, which is also an issue for a lot of people. You can't source that food. So you have the ability to self-treat. Eventually, Chewy will also have a 24-hour, 24/7 hotline, which will allow for people to call in and speak to a medical advisor. Now they can choose, if there isn't an actual allopathic medicine doctor on board, you know, online, they could choose to speak to a natural medicine. They could only choose to speak to one or the other. It doesn't matter. And then, of course, heck, if the medicine men in the bush of Africa want to join, great, no problem. Let's all talk about it. You know, or how about Chinese herbal medicine? I mean, you know, Western medicine, Eastern medicine, whatever it is, there'll be someone there for you if you want to talk to somebody because you're unsure how to self-treat.
Okay.
Maybe that's your choice. If you need to have a surgery that's not available in your country, there is money for travel, because we had to think about this, because great ideas are just ideas. They're still in the idea phase here. We're on the execution phase now, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Okay. So travel money would actually be important to be included. Now you have a certain amount. I think we set a figure of about $25,000 a year, with the ability to apply for more under extenuating circumstances. As an example, if you are the parent of a very sick child that needs 1 year full of treatment in another country, you can apply for that. It also includes medical freedom, right? We have medical freedom, so that also includes a certain amount of plastic surgery if that's what you want.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Well, think about it. You have everything in this category, from like a cleft palate,
right,
to people that have been in a car accident.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and they have scars, or they want to live there, you know, they've been living their life with this scar forever, that kind of thing. Maybe they want to get that removed. Maybe it's a self-worth thing, you know, to have some self-confidence in yourself. And I don't even care. We don't even care. Honestly, it's your medical freedom, but you only have so much. Now there's extenuating circumstances. So I think it's like $50,000 in a lifetime. But if there's an extenuating circumstance, like I said, you know, you get into a horrible car accident and you need 5 or 10 different surgeries just to look like yourself again, or you are in a fire and you get burned, or, you know, you're in the military, that's a whole nother story, you know, that kind of thing. You know, you might need more. And again, just like with travel, there's extenuating circumstances, and we understand that, and you can apply. Okay? So medical freedom also gives you the ability to buy supplements. You know, sometimes, you know, aromatherapy makes people feel good.
Yeah.
And that works for you. Sometimes you might want to go someplace and listen to binary beats. Sometimes you just want to consult with a spiritual advisor online. And you'd like to talk about your tarot card reading or whatever it is your thing. You know, I'm not endorsing or denying it, this works. You know, or you just want to talk to someone that's connected for a little while, and maybe you need to go visit a healer. Maybe it's a person who's a spiritual healer and you need to go see that person. Or maybe you want to go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist and get some kind of a pill, but that's your choice. You now have the freedom and the ability to choose what it is you want to do. At the same time, you will have the resources to make that decision, because that is not what is happening right now. You do not have the ability, well, I'd say maybe you do because you're watching this, but 90% of the world does not know anything about what it's like to self-treat. Maybe they do, because some of these people have had to do that. You know, maybe there's a quick 1-2 thing, you know, if you get something simple like a cold or a cough, and, you know, it's passed down from generation to generation that this is what you do. So some people do, and they do know what it's like to self-treat. Then, you know, we get into things like nutritionists and chiropractors and massage therapists. Massages are important. You can actually, under this plan, get 2 massages a month.
Nice.
Yeah. You know, people don't take into consideration, or conventional medicine doesn't take into consideration, things like an esthetician. Why would you want to go to an esthetician? You know, you can treat your acne this way. You can treat a lot of different things. And if you go to a dermatologist, sometimes they want to pop you full of pills, and maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you want to choose a combination of some kind of natural oils that you talk to the hotline advisor about, and maybe you want to try going to an esthetician twice a month, and you can do that too. Treating the whole person is what holistic medicine is. That means taking care of your mind, your body, and your soul. That's what life assurance is about, and it gives you the ability to do all of these things at no cost to you. Now, you can see by the pathways that I just laid out to you that in order to do that, because right now, for example, the government has a insurance program here in America. It's called Medicare. Other governments, it's called the National Health Service, whether you're in Canada or you're in some other country. So you can kind of see from looking at this the benefits of life assurance. I mean, and there's a lot more to it than that, but that's a generalized overview. We had to actually break down, you know, what is natural medicine, what are possible things that people would want to buy. We had to come up with a different coding system in addition to the 90,000 various codes that current medical insurance pays for. There's 90,000 different things on the list of conventional medicine that you can have. We also had to take a look at prescription medicines, non-prescription medicines. You know, how do we differentiate the two? What is a self-treating medication? Well, in some cases, I can break that down to even like cayenne pepper and ginger root.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I can break that down so many different ways. What is it that this will allow you to purchase? You know, there's such a thing as food as medicine as well. Sure. So we had to figure out how to issue probably another 135,000 codes to account for this whole side of medicine nobody's ever heard of. Now, I'm going to talk to you about, that is the mission statement of life assurance. That is what it is.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the think tank of life assurance, which happens in my brain a lot, but then I have to relay it to other people so they get it because they have to execute on it.
Yeah.
Now we have a problem. Okay. So here's the list of problems. 80% of the people in the world are unbanked, meaning they have no bank account, they have nothing, they have no access to a bank account, they have no access to a bank card or anything like that, and for a lot of reasons, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing we thought about, but we had also figured out that the card infrastructure, what's called a point of sale system, is severely lacking in about 91 to 92% in the world. So 91 to 92% have in a lot of areas limited access to any kind of a card system. So we're like, okay, so that is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And predominantly we had to come up with something else. Okay, how do you pay the medicine man? How do you get the herbs that the medicine man told you to get? Right. How do you get over to talk to your acupuncturist? How does all this happen? So we also said, well, we can come up with an application, an app for your phone, because we also figured out that even though these people, 80% of the people might be unbanked, now of the 80%, somewhere about 72 to 74% of those people have a smartphone.
Wow, that's interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So this is just in our generalized overview of running demographics on how to serve these people. So we could come up with some kind of tap and pay system. Yeah. So, which is accepted, in the majority of the point of sale systems in the world. And it's also accepted by small business owners, small doctors. They usually have something like Squarespace, or Apple Pay or whatever it is. You just tap your card or swipe your card or tap your phone or whatever it is you do to pay those small business owners. Now it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Now you can find within reason internet in, they might not have much, they might not have a clinic, but a lot of places, even in the middle of nowhere, have a limited amount of internet connectivity. Not everywhere, but I'd probably say, and we figured it works really well in somewhere around 55% of the world. Not including cruise ships or in the middle of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just talking about, landmass here, about somewhere around there. You have decent, I'm not going to say it's 5G or anything like that, and who wants that anyway, but that have decent internet coverage, just decent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to affect my tap and pay. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to take about 13% of those people off because they live in countries like South Africa, as one example, Russia as another one, Iran maybe. And I'm going to take those people right out of the mix, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if you have data service on your telephone or internet service, there is no, like in America here, we have this like one plan and it's like unlimited data, and even that's not unlimited. It's Fair Use Act and all this crap. But and for these people to utilize data, maybe on a tap and pay basis, they got to pay more money. They're going to have to pay more money to their phone. So now we had to come up with another solution for this problem, which, by the way, kind of solved a lot of other issues that we were having. We had come up with about, I think it was 12 or 13. No. We ended up having to go because of the islands in the South Pacific, with 24 different satellite companies around the world. Some of them big ones, would be like Cisco. And with that, of the landmass of Earth, we could pretty much cover the entire planet with satellite service. They would let us lease their satellite coverage for probably around each, not all together, for about $750 million a year. Depending on our usage, that number could go up times 24. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so that kind of solved that problem somewhat. But now we have to do app development that's very specific to the medical industry. Now we also have to figure out how to reach all these people. Who's providing the service to you?
Right.
You know, self-care is one thing. Calling in on a hotline is the latest thing, you know, that you can do. You don't have to go wait in line. You know, how do I get a hold of all of these doctors, holistic and otherwise?
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole secondary network that has to be built for them, where they can register themselves as a provider. And within minutes, now remember, there has to be a backbone worldwide electronic network that allows them to log in. It will immediately create a user account for them immediately, not in a week, not in 2 days, because you're standing there, you're sick, and you need help.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe they're new to it. My card will take care of this for me. All you got to do is the instructions are on the back of the card. You log in and you say, okay, well, we're Dr. Jones and we're in Papua New Guinea and we are treating Mary Lou and she's here with her card. You know, we would like to sign up to be a provider under your network. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. No problem. They go and they swipe the card and then it's paid for immediately. So this solves a lot of other problems in the world. This solves that medical billing problem where governments don't pay doctors sometimes for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. You remember the big controversy over Obamacare if you're in the U.S.? They refused to pay doctors top dollar. They capped it. And that's really great in theory. You know, that was a great theory. But in theory, all the doctors just walked away from you. Not to say they don't have a sense of entitlement in some way, shape, or form here in the U.S., but it still happens. In some countries, you have NHS restrictions, National Healthcare Service restrictions, where if you are in that system, because there's a bond against you too, don't forget about medical bonds. I didn't include the medical bonds, did I? There's a bond against you too, because you're in the NHS system. That's another bond on top of the other bonds, on top of the financial bonds. They got you coming and going. There's no aspect of your life that you weren't bonded for and became collateral to pay for. The same thing goes in the insurance industry. So we had to come up with something that would allow these people enough freedom to choose something and still retain the medical professionals in the world. Now, we also had to take into account current demographics. What does it cost in this country for an aspirin? What does it cost in America for an aspirin? What does it cost in Russia and the Philippine Islands? What does it cost in Japan? What does it cost? We had to figure out a baseline for medical costs in the world. And we also had to figure out a baseline of what people currently spend on insurance and then more than double it. So that number estimate, if the world doesn't change, is somewhere around, I think it's about 194 trillion we came up with per year. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of doctors that make a lot of money in this world. I can promise you that. Especially probably half of that's already spent in America. Maybe not half, but you know, a good portion in Europe and America, between Europe and the United States. That includes government, Medicare payments, all of those types of things too, home health care for elderly, that kind of thing. So now, problems that we had to look at and problems we had to solve. So, okay, no card system, no POS system, 90 to 92% of the world. I had to chop off another 13% because those decent internet users wouldn't be able to afford to pay attention if they happen to be on hold for 15 minutes. Then they can't feed their family for the rest of the week. That's how expensive internet is in those particular areas of the world. So we had to come up with some kind of a network that we could possibly use anywhere, anytime, any place. We also have to take into consideration, what if they don't have a smartphone? Does that mean that they can't get access to the healthcare system of the planet, the new one? Mm-hmm. The answer to the question is no. We have to then provide them with a phone. In some areas of the world, I know that if you're on some kind of government assistance, they'll give you some rudimentary 250-minute a month phone that you could probably buy for $10 in a store. But we have to buy a smartphone of some sort and provide that to the people.
Right.
Do we pay for the service? Do we pay for additional satellite coverage? Because the satellite coverage is not cheap. because we don't have, okay, so great, we got the satellites, but now I either have to go through a satellite phone provider service and make a negotiation, which I haven't done yet, and then or build our own satellite network, which means our own service that then can connect to these satellites. It's a lot more complicated than I think people think. They're like, where's assurance? Where's assurance?
Yeah. Where's my card?
Where's my card? Where's your beta testing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
So again, in order to create a demand for a program, a worldwide program like assurance, without leaving anybody out, we have to create that. This is where the demands are created. We can't just throw numbers up against the wall. These numbers that we're coming up with here are based on current healthcare systems, insurance payouts in every single country in the world, including NHS or other access healthcare or whatever it's called for the poor in your country. We also had to take that into consideration. How many people don't actually go to the doctor at all? I mean, and maybe because they can't afford it or they don't even have a dentist in their area. That's the other thing we had to look at too. Holistic dentistry is up and coming. There's a lot of holistic dentists out there. We need to take those people into consideration too, because it's expensive to pay for your own. And as you know, if you've seen the Root Cause movie, everything that happens in your mouth happens to every other organ in your body.
Yeah.
That's an important part of health. It has to be done, and it has to be done right with the right materials. But again, you have medical freedom to choose. So now we had to look at the dentistry industry worldwide and how many people don't go to the dentist in that particular area, in that particular region. So the number per annum kept going up and up and up and up and up. And then we took into consideration the supplement industry and oils industry and a lot of other things that people use to help themselves and to cure themselves. Never mind food as medicine.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly are we going to do here, and how do we solve these problems? How do I get food to the middle of nowhere in the Sahara Desert where there's a tribe and people live there? How do I get them out of, what are they going to be really, really sick and ride their bicycle? There are places in this world where there is a bicycle with a stretcher type thing that's on the back, and that's called an ambulance. You really, please, okay? Our think tank has worked overtime. Then we had to source out the solutions. And even in places where there was a POS system, we could still only cover at this moment somewhere around 70% of the world. And even then, there's no guarantee it's going to be working on that day that you need it. So we had to figure out something else. Then the main company in the world, which is a deep state company, is called Fiserv. Now, Fiserv is probably the only company in the world that will program a card. The insurance companies of the world still do it the old way. In other words, you have your card, it's got your number on it, they call the phone number, they check to make sure it's valid, and then while you're in there getting your treatment or whatever, and if it isn't, you got a bill when you come out. Mm-hmm. Then they actually send an invoice over to, and they have electronic invoicing systems nowadays for insurance companies, and they might get paid if it's a private insurance provider somewhere from 60 to 90 days later. Could be up to 6 months. And that's when the hospital or whatever clinic, if it's a large enough hospital or clinic, that's when they have time to send out the bill. Money doesn't move in this world in any way, shape, or form like it should. And I'm even talking about first world countries or, I would say, U.S., Western countries, Canada, in Europe. I mean, you would think that it would be a lot better, but it's not. It's still like this to this day. Doctors are going out of business because they can't get paid. Can you imagine what's going to take place when your national health insurance can't pay anymore? Or what's going to take place? What's going to happen to every hospital in your country? What if they're going to go out of business? What if it's a year and they haven't gotten paid? I know the VA here in the United States, the Veterans Administration hospitals are not paying either. They are not paying contractors. They're coming up with ridiculous red tape and that are putting people out of business. Point blank. And I know that there's construction companies that have done work that's been critical in particular areas, especially because we had the hurricanes and whatnot, and they still in the United States. So in order to make the cards function, the only company in the world that we found that actually has a coding system that could work worldwide for cards in only places that have cards. I don't even know if they do tap and pay. I think not at the moment. Is FireTV. Now, FireTV currently restricts cards in the United States, like they're called EBS cards. They're the food. They replaced food stamps here in the United States, where you would actually. So the food cards, your card is programmed. You cannot buy, as an example, cooked food. So you can't go out to a restaurant with your food card. You can only buy raw food that you can then cook at home. And with what they give you, I don't know how you could do anything else anyway. But you are restricted to only food items. You cannot buy toilet paper. You cannot buy toiletries. You cannot buy anything else. And so there is basically a standardized barcoding system that exists not everywhere in the world, but in a number of Western countries it exists. And FireTV was the only one that was given that information. Wow. So I know, wow. So that's how they were able to do cards like that. So because it is an assurance card, there are going to be restrictions and things you cannot buy. You cannot buy a Ferrari with your life assurance card. You cannot buy. So these are things that we have to have programmed in. Now, since FireTV is not our friend, they also do a lot of the payment processing for Social Security, other government payments. They are located in Atlanta, Georgia, which is the world's largest payment center for the entire planet Earth. So, but anyway, just to give you an idea. So we started looking at these or other companies like them. There are some smaller ones in different regions, different continents, those types of things that had to be compiled in order to try to make it happen. So we are going through the entire supply chain. We are prepared that when money does come out, it gets all the way down, ticks all the boxes, hits all the people, and then eventually comes out to you. You see, it's not like we just said, oh, we're going to do life assurance and it's going to happen organically. It's just going to magically fall out of the sky. And isn't that lovely? Or I'll work on it when, there's funding. Well, when there's funding, I'm now behind the 8 ball by about, 12 months, 18 months, because I haven't done any of this.
Yeah.
Not just me. There's a whole think tank that did this. Right. We developed solutions, things we wanted it to do, and then you develop problems and things that you see that could erupt. And there was a whole group of people from different parts of the world that were coming up with this information right here. And we haven't even covered the problems with essentials, that demographics, average pay wage, how to avoid inflation, which means if you get paid more, then the guy's going to charge down the street's going to charge you more for milk. We had to make sure that we didn't cause that issue for you and your families and your countries. There's a lot to take into account when coming up with an entire system that works worldwide overnight. It's impossible. So we could have waited and not done this work behind the scenes. We could have. But then be like, hey, guys, funding is here. It's going to be 2-3 years in development.
Yeah.
Hang tight. It doesn't work the way you think it works. That's all I'm trying to tell you. And that there's a long road to go to get this started. The world doesn't work the way you think it works. And the only thing you get that is that fast is a semi-non-meat product from McDonald's slab of something and a non-milk milkshake. If you want that for health insurance, then go for it. There's plenty of that out there.
Yeah.
For now. Because with the bonds going, that those collateral pools were all insured by the insurance companies, the banks are banging down their door, telling them to pay out on the insurance. And the insurance companies also, they're gonna file bankruptcy because they can't afford it. So, sometimes it takes a lot more work than people think to do something on a worldwide scale like that. And I wanted to let you know, I didn't forget about you. We're not doing these programs. We are doing the thing. I know many people have worked many hours contacting companies all over the world, stayed up half the night to try to reach out to these people so we could make it happen for you. And the same thing that goes with our new marketplace. The marketplace will actually be a little easier. We can put that together probably in a couple of weeks, which is what we're hoping for. Barring any disasters, we're testing all kinds of plugins and everything and trying to make it easy for people. It's not, we also are, at the same time, we're doing these types of things, not only for insurance, we're also looking for alternative fuel sources. What is our ultimate end goal for fuel worldwide? Well, and that crosses into every other industry, because do we still need any petroleum at all? To some degree. We have lubricants and other things. There are silica-based stuff we're looking at replacing. But see, every single thing that happens on planet Earth has been controlled by them.
Yeah.
We have to change it. We have to fix it, because these people, I'm going to tell you right now, are not coming to the table. They would rather sit there and play solitaire, in the dark with a candle in the Federal Reserve than give up.
Right.
So let them go. That's where the marketplace is going to come in handy, not only for you, the people who make, soap in your kitchen, to the people that, have books or information, or, whether it's health, whether it's bath and body, whether it's all these different things. Now you get a place you can get all your stuff. Farm to table, network of farmers worldwide. This is your job. Let's pull it together, because we're going to need it. Now, as far as financial systems go, as far as money goes, we have money.
Yeah.
We have the Office of the Currency, the Curator. We have money. We don't have bonds. We don't have liens. That money doesn't go to your government now to provide you with your health care. It doesn't go to the Order of the Black Sun to provide you with your insurance. It doesn't go to the bank, and it doesn't go to Rothschild, and it doesn't go to all these people anymore. So we are breaking down a system that is very old. It's got nothing to do with money. It's worse than that. You were way worse off than you could have ever possibly imagined, and I leave a lot of information out here. You think We Are the 99% was going to get you somewhere? Well, that's a great song. I like it too. But it didn't. Not even close. You could have protested until your head rolled off, and nobody cares, because you're still owned by them. Mm-hmm. You are literally owned by them, and then by them, and then by them, and then they're owned by them until you get all the way. So, does that make sense to you, Sunny? Do you have any questions?
Well, so what happens? We've been talking about governments are not coming to the table. What happens if stock markets start to crash, governments start to go under, as far as, healthcare, whatever you view healthcare as? We've just kind of gone through all the different options. Are we expected then, if our insurance starts to collapse and things like that, then we just, we use the money that we're going to have in our accounts to be able to directly pay? Is that the interim solution?
Well, right now, insurance companies have the luxury of paying whenever they feel like it. Governments also pay whenever they feel like it, to any hospital, private doctor, whoever you're going to see anywhere in the world. And there are areas of the world where private doctors only take cash.
Right.
We're going to have to come up with some kind of system, something to make it work. And if that's the case, then it would be all hands on deck at that point, because we would need people to answer phones. You're at Dr. Murray's office. Okay, give me the address, give me the information. Okay. And then we're going to have to somehow send over some kind of a payment through ACH or some other methodology, because, we're going to have to scotch tape it together, because I can tell you right now, all this stuff isn't going to be ready.
Right. Okay.
I mean, we're close, but app development alone takes 6 to 8 months and costs about $50 million for something like we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know. And if I had $50 million, I'd do it right now. But you get paid when I get paid. I don't get paid. You don't get paid. That's how this works.
Yep.
So on that note, I think I've taken up a lot of your time today.
That was really good, though, because people had a ton of questions, and we do hear that all the time when it's assurance rolling out, you know, and there's a lot of fear that's based around that, and people need help. They really do. Yeah, I completely get it. But I think it was really important for us to see all of the things that you have to think about and have to consider when you're working on a worldwide program. And I think it goes without saying, based on what we said, but I just want to clarify, when we roll out assurance, whatever it is called, it goes out to everybody at the same time. It's not like US gets it first and then Europe. I mean, is that the plan? Roll out to everybody?
Yeah. Because imagine what would happen if we said, okay, you're on the African continent and you're in Burundi. Sorry, yes. Burundi people.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to have 9,000 angry Burundians on my door, you know, like it's.
And rightfully so. Yeah.
It's not fair and it's not right.
Right. Okay.
You know, there's a system in place for every single thing that you can think of. Everything you see in your house, everything you see on the road, every single thing you see in the air, every single morsel of food in your grocery store and beyond, there is a system for that. There's a system for the farm that created it. As you can see in the news today, they were talking about fair trade. And I can tell you right now, I know for a fact that those coffee farmers and pickers, they make about $1 for a 5-gallon bucket of beans, which retail cost for those beans, not brewed, and I'm not talking about your $4 cup of coffee. Retail cost, like when you go to the grocery store and you buy a bag of coffee, is somewhere around $3,500 to $4,000. And that's just in its raw form. Not raw, I mean they're obviously roasted. But and most of the farms, a lot of the farms do their own roasting too. So think about what's happening there. We need to connect the farmers to you, the end user. And that goes for teas and other things that we see. It's the same thing in the store. We pay about, in the U.S. here, I think we're at about $2 and some change for an avocado.
Yeah, that's right.
One avocado. When a lot of the Hass avocados come from Mexico. Most of the people who pick the avocados get paid about $5 a day, maybe max. Then they've got shipping costs, bringing it across the border, those types of things. And so, you know, all in for my one avocado, it probably cost that company about maybe 15 cents. You know, I mean, it's okay to make a profit on something you make. If you make soap and all the raw ingredients cost this, you make the soap, you put it on the market, you know, then you should get paid for making your soap. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But you know, making something that costs you 5 cents, say, and you're selling it on the market for, you know, $55. I mean, come on.
Well, and you also have to pay people their fair share. I mean, those farmers they're getting screwed over. I'm just going to say it. They're getting completely screwed over. So.
Oh, totally.
That's got to stop.
So are the truck drivers. Yeah. So are the shippers. So are the airline freight companies. So everybody's getting it.
Yeah.
Everybody. And then you take that one bag and now you can multiply that number times probably at least 140, you know, 150-ish. You know, that $3,500, $4,000. And now you've got what Starbucks sells every day through their drive-thrus and grocery stores and all the places you can buy a Starbucks coffee in the world. Sorry.
Bless you.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, but you see my point here. Something has got to change.
Yeah.
It's got to change. And the way to change the world, we are here to restore planet Earth, right? That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing.
We are here to change the world. That's what we're doing. And if we're going to change the way human beings receive healthcare to include technologies that some of you know about, like med beds and other types of infrared even technologies, like infrared, red infrared is really great for people that live in areas where there's not a lot of sun, like parts of Europe and England and even the US where there's not a lot of sun in the wintertime. It's cures depression, does a lot of things. And we've got cold laser infrared. That's, all those things you have to pay for nowadays.
Yeah.
But if we're going to really change the face of healthcare, it's not just about payment systems and how do we get the service to the people, and how do we get the doctors to the people, and how do we get the practitioners to the people, and how do we get the experts, like maybe someone's an expert in uses and dosages for moringa tree leaves. I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody out there for that. How do we get those people? Mm-hmm. In the marketplace was one way, not just for health purposes, but for other purposes, to get it started immediately is what I was told. So yes, some of the products on there are commercial products, those kind of things, just to tell you how to use it. There might be a different form of organic oils or whatever that's out there. It might be 7 different organic essential oil providers as an example. And only one of them might be us, and maybe everybody else is on there too, which is great.
Yeah.
People have the right to choose, and it's in the spirit of freedom, and not just medical freedom, freedom period. Mm-hmm. Freedom to finally choose at a price that you can probably afford, which is going to be a lot cheaper. I still don't know why the price of food globally, worldwide, went up. Did chickens all of a sudden stop laying eggs? Did they have a fertility problem? Did cows all of a sudden stop, having calves?
Yeah, well, they were killing a lot of those animals, claiming that they had some sort of disease and stuff like that. But still, it shouldn't have gone the way it did. Yeah.
Yeah, the disease is probably us. And I'm not saying, eat meat, don't eat meat, whatever, but I'm just pointing out the facts. The price of vegetables right now is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And the funny part about it is that I can get vegetables cheaper and organic directly from a farmer that makes all these kind of eclectic vegetables, like things you never heard of, like maybe oca or, I can get fruits, vegetables, all kinds of stuff directly from a farm that's willing to ship throughout the United States for about $100 a week, which is way cheaper than I'm paying at the grocery store. And I eat a lot of vegetables, so it works out. But it's ridiculous. Even with the cost of shipping and the weight and all of that, it's still cheaper. That's crazy. And the farmer's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
I can source out microgreens. I can source out all the stuff I like there. Plus, they have all this really cool stuff because their original market that they catered to were these 5-star Michelin chefs. So they started growing all of these exotic different, vegetables and whatnot. It's been amazing. So I've kind of gotten this little culinary journey from a local farmer. I know. So I'm really excited about it. But there's so much that this world has to offer, things you've never even heard of. And, and people in their businesses, we have some amazing people that have submitted sponsorship. Some of them make their own lines of clothing and everything. I can't wait to put these people in that marketplace and watch them thrive.
Yeah.
People didn't, I've heard of bamboo socks because of that company that's everywhere, Bombas or whatever it is, but I've never heard of bamboo clothing as an example. And I think that's pretty cool. So probably going to get myself some. But you see what I'm saying? Like there's a world out there that once we get to explore, not just what the mainstream stores and controlled corporations want us to have, but what's really out there.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that. I was told to do that ASAP. That will help also bring in some medical professionals to build up for the app when it's ready. And we can start getting some of the, by professionals now, this could be a nutritionist, it could be a naturopathic doctor, it could be an advisor. A lot of people lost their jobs. Remember that are RNs, and during the issue that happened because they didn't want a thing. And so, you know, if you don't have the thing, you don't have a job. So there's plenty of people out there looking for something else to do. Maybe even work from home for a couple hours after the kids go to bed, that kind of thing. I mean, the possibilities are endless for really transforming the entire industry. But not just that industry, the way we buy our clothes, the way we dress. Do we really need to pay? Does anybody anywhere need to pay $500 for a T-shirt? Anybody?
No, come on.
Because the name on it was some guy that we didn't really...
Some logo. Yeah, some logo on it.
Some logo on it or something like that. You know, I mean, think about, it's the same thing with movies and independent filmmakers and indie films. You know, that's part of what United Network wants to do. We want to offer that distributorship to them at a good, reasonable price. And we'll put their stuff up. I mean, on a network with multiple people. Same thing for writers, you know, artists, music, all of those types of things. You know, it's a whole new world but remember, everything has to have a framework. Even UNN has a framework. When our news happens, there's a framework in place. So-and-so does the graphics on this side. So-and-so does the graphics on the other side. You know, there was somebody that produced that cute little doo-doo-doo, you know, you hear at the beginning of the news. That didn't just happen. You know, there's somebody that helps write scripts, and Sonny fills in and I fill in. We add our little pieces here and there, you know, from time to time. And to you, it's not like we turn on YouTube and sit down with a microphone and a podcast to make the news. So, you know, what it is. And we only want to expand upon that, you know, and I'm sure all of you are looking forward to that too. But every single framework we're putting in place right now, be it the marketplace, be it the health and other sections, be it assurance, be it looking and sourcing out different clothing manufacturers, different ways of doing things. How are we going to get some shoes? There are places people don't wear shoes. I guess they won't matter, you know, not matter, but I guess they won't care if they don't have shoes. Yeah. But hey, you know, it's cold here and it snows and I need boots. So where am I going to get them from? Because I'm not going to get them from one of those corporations. Who's going to make them? I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that make shoes. So, you know, but do you see on how we're going to build a different world?
It's huge, you know. So I want to back up one of the things that you said I was told to build the marketplace. So Source actually said, this is what we need to do. Okay.
And just wanted to clarify that. Structuring it. Yeah. I kind of started structuring it and, thinking about different areas, and I've changed my sitemap now like 4 times in the last week and a half, that kind of thing. But yes, I was told to do that. Just like life assurance, it was the same thing. Just like United Network, it was the same thing. Yep. Yep. And how to change the face of media.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it. I mean, I'm kind of excited that we actually landed on YouTube and Rumble for a little while. And the reason why I am is because, you know, the field messenger reports are getting a lot more views. You know, I've seen a lot of people I've come to know, you know, so I'm excited about that. You know, I'm thankful for real news, real products, real things people are talking about in their respective areas, real issues that need to be addressed. I mean, this is what the news is all about.
It is. Yeah. And on that note, Kim, I did want to put the message out there that we are needing more field messenger reports. So I think it slowed down there for a little bit, and our team is ready to edit and help you guys with your reports. So please keep those coming.
Absolutely. So you heard Sonny. Don't go against Sonny.
Or else. No, I'm just kidding.
You'll have ground command.
There's so much growth and potential here. That's what I get excited about that, right? You know, like we talked about before.
Well, I do too. I love to create and I love to empower people. Those are my two favorite things in the world to do. And every single thing that I've been able to work on in my, I hate to use the word free time because it really doesn't exist. I would say that I've managed to schedule into the day. Every single thing I've managed to schedule into the day has given me so much pleasure, you know, to build. Yeah. The framework is there, and I know when I look at a framework, it looks like, you know, hundreds of veins coming down from just one idea is what it looks like to me. And once every single little vein has a place and where it needs to go, you know, then we're doing the work so that the funds will have a place to go and to get to you. Yeah. Supply and demand, supply and demand, supply and demand. So we're also giving you a place that supports your projects. We are building on that, on care as well, for care as well. We are giving you a place where you can sell your goods to everybody and anybody in the world without having to use expensive other routes. We know that there's a lot of online marketplaces in the world, maybe a few major ones where you can sell your stuff, but they charge you 20%, 30%, 40% to do that. And that's a lot of money when you're making your own, you know, like you said, soaps in your kitchen or something like that. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
So you shouldn't have to give it up. And at least you're getting nothing for it. I mean, if a company pays out 20% of something to be on a platform, a lot of the time, you know, they'll get some kind, that's for marketing, or someone's putting out flyers, or, you know, they're paying somebody to put their information or their products in their bath and body shop or something like that, you know, but you're not getting anything. So this is a way where we can do it differently and do it better, you know. So on that note, the World Situation Report for Wednesday.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sunny.
That wraps up today's news update. Please share UNN with your friends and family. We need everyone to come together and help restore our planet. When news happens in your area, record it and share it with us so we can help you share it with the world. Remember, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I'm Sunny Galt. Join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the real news.